Hello, IWOW family, and welcome to this edition of Poethnic Justice, where social awareness, life enrichment, critical thinking, and problem solving are exalted and revered through literary art and social commentary. Thank you for joining us. What we're going to be discussing in this edition is knowing how to spot propaganda when you see it. What does it look like, and how does it come packaged? Thank you for joining us. Hello everyone, I am your host, the Stormy Poets. Very glad you could join us this evening. I hope everyone out there is doing as well as they can despite the circumstances we live in. I'm pretty sure many of you all of you are aware of the times and the era that we currently exist in. Definitely not a paradise, but again, I'm speaking the obvious. Anyways, what I wanted to touch on this evening, and I'm glad I got to do this show. I've been really busy hacking away at the keys, trying to get this book out as soon as humanly possible. I say book, it's more of a document. It's not going to be anything that you can physically touch, but it is going to be highly accessible. I'm going to offer it as a Patreon incentive. That being said, if you want to copy that darn bad, I do offer it as a Patreon incentive, but I feel it's important enough to where if you do get it, let's say you do make a contribution and you want to share with all the people you know, sure, that works. I mean, any amount helps me basically increase my platform so that I can reach more people to give them information that's useful to them. So if you deem this as a program that is doing so, I would highly appreciate it. But what I wanted to get to here in this edition is something that I saw pop up on my Twitter timeline. A bunch of people with the hashtag ADOS, and I'm pretty sure most of you know, but for those who don't, ADOS, there have been similar terms out there. ADOS is an acronym for American Descendants of Slaves. This terminology refers to a lineage. It does not refer to race because technically black covers a lot of different cultures and regions, people from those cultures and regions. So it can't be simplified down to just the skin color. It refers to a very specific lineage. The founders of the terminology were Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore. Sandy Darity, who is an economist from Duke, actually, who studies reparations, and basically the situation that black people were the ones who originated this term. And since then, it has taken form, it's taken shape. A lot of people have latched onto it. A lot of people are now identifying themselves as such. You also heard of the term foundational black Americans, which I think was actually kind of a better term. Not to say that that term in and of itself wasn't innovated and that it didn't spark a national conversation. I just think that FBA, if you haven't seen, there's a hashtag going around the social media sphere called hashtag FBA, which is foundational black Americans. Tariq Nasheed actually coined this terminology, and I feel like it's more accurate because, yes, we descend from slave lineage, which is pretty easy to determine, even though the powers that be try to make it seem like, well, we don't know how we would get that done. We don't know how it's feasible. No, it's very easy to determine, actually. But not only do we descend from slaves, were actually the group that built America from the ground up, from nothing, that built the ground up for the Europeans. We're the only group that can really say that. Others have contributed to it, but they didn't build the foundation, and they didn't make it. They didn't make it to where it was actually possible to come here and build something off of what we already built, basically. So no, it was not immigrants who built America. It was foundational Black Americans, which is not a controversial. It's not a controversial thing to say. You could just look at history, and history will tell you that. If you look at real history, history will tell you that. But again, the powers that be will have you thinking something else because there's a bigger plot that they have, that they're a bigger plan that they see. They see things in a larger realm of things in the bigger picture that a lot of us don't see. But what I wanted to get to here tonight is an NY Times, the New York Times. It was an article that they did, and I myself have not read the article. That's the thing. I didn't want to go and analyze it and then kind of give you my piece on it. I wanted to go through it live right here and right now so you can get my raw and first initial reactions. I wanted to be as genuine and as pure as possible. I didn't really need to read it to know where the New York Times was going with this. The New York Times, for those who don't know, is an independent, and I put that in air quotes, but it's an independent news outlet. I've embedded a lot of articles from this site into a lot of the things I write on my own site. And you can actually find some of those links embedded in the document that I'm putting out here in the next couple of months that I've been working on for darn near the past 2 years. So every writer that comes through the New York Times is not on the propaganda team or the propaganda, or is not with the propaganda plan, and are just genuinely writing and reporting the news, which is what all news media outlets are supposed to do. So if they solicit a writer and they come and write a piece and it actually speaks some truth, then that's possible. I'm not saying that everybody on that site is, playing the game of white supremacy. That's not what I'm saying. But when you're doing propaganda, if you're a part of an organization that is doing propaganda, you understand that you can't just outright tell lies all the time. You have to sprinkle in some truth every now and then so that you can point to something and say, hey, look, we weren't lying. We're not lying. There's not propaganda. Look, we have the other side too. We have this side too, and we told the truth, and you can fact check that. That way they can point to that and say, we're not all as bad as all that. But understand something. When it comes to media outlets, they are indeed, and the fact that they all follow the same pattern lets you know that something is intentional and that it's not just coincidence. Something is at play here, and it's intentional because they do function as the propaganda arm for white supremacy. But this New York Times article, which I have not read yet, and I'll say it again, I'm pulling it up here. I found it very interesting because I can tell a lot about an article really just based off the title of it. I can tell how they're wording things. I can tell their half-truths just based off how they title it. The title is supposed to set the tone. And as a writer myself who's working on his third book, I understand that. The title sets the actual tone for what you're about to present. And if I can pull it up here, my phone is acting crazy on me. Hold on just a second. US. And I read these and study these, and this is all I do. All I do is study what's going on in regards to the whole system as a whole. And the title of this piece, and you can go look it up for yourself, and you can follow along with me if you'd like. But the title of this piece is "We're Self-Interested, the growing identity debate in Black America." The growing identity debate in Black America. Now, here's the thing with that article, or the title of this article, rather. Here's the thing with the title of this article. It says, we're self-interested, and we are. We are self-interested because other groups are self-interested. When it comes to the Latinos, when it comes to the LGBT, when it comes to environmentalists, when it comes to these things, they are very self-interested. And hey, I have no problem with that. The problem is whenever we become self-interested, it becomes a negative connotation. The average person reading that, because they don't do other articles like this. They don't do other articles like this, number one, because they don't really have to. With groups like the LGBT, as it relates to politics, it's already understood that they're just looking out for their group. Forget what the intersectionality and all that. When it comes to the feminist data, it's understood they're looking out specifically for their specific group. With black people, because we're expected to be inclusive, because that's what you're expected as the bottom caste of the society, is you're expected to be inclusive. You can't just have anything that's just for you. That's the way the society is set up, and that's the way they're trying to keep it. So we're self-interested, yes we are, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they made sure to put that first. And then it says the growing identity debate in Black America. Here's the thing, and Neely Fuller taught us this, to always ask questions. What exactly is Black America? What is Black America? See, the whole reason they didn't title it something to the effect of ADOS is claiming their lineage, or ADOS is specifying what it is and what it means and why they deserve specific. They didn't start it off like that. They said the debate in Black America. What is Black America? Who defines it? Who can define that? What is Black America? A person who's biracial could say, well, Black America is anybody that has a little bit of black in them. Well, that's problematic in and of itself, because as you can see, as you've probably seen, whenever the issue of reparations is brought up, the white person who has 2% black blood in them can then come and say, well, I have black in me, so I deserve reparations too. See, then they can come and claim that. Then they can come and claim that. So you can already tell where this article, and I haven't even got past the title, but I study stuff like this. The debate, and the other thing there, the debate, it's not a debate. This isn't up for debate. Lineage isn't up for debate. Either you're the successor, and that's why the terms like American descendants of slaves, foundational Black Americans, bloodline successors of American slaves. That's kind of my own little personal acronym for that. That's the terminology I used in the book. This is not up for debate. It's not up for debate at all. Now, I'm just going to read here, and I'm going to see where this takes us. Again, I've not read it, so here goes. Wow, a movement that claims to support the American descendants, and that right out the gate. Wow, a movement that it's not a movement. It's an ideology. It's a principle. It's a principle. We're saying we are a part of a lineage. It's not a movement. It isn't a movement. And I'm wondering if, before I go any further, and I already see the word Harriet Tubman, I already know where they're going with this, by the way. But I wonder if they actually sat down with Antonio Moore or Tariq Nasheed or Yvette Carnett. Did they actually sit down with them and get some clarification? No, they're just writing their little funky propaganda piece article and just taking it and running with it. But that's what the bad guys do. Why a movement that claims to support the American descendants of slavery is being promoted by conservatives, which they're really not caping for it. You got one or two people who are trying to use it for their political advantage. I think Donald Trump's son said something to that effect. He said something, what is reparations? I mean, how do we figure that out? Shouldn't it just go to it was something to that effect. He made it about 2 or 3 months ago. So they took one conservative who's not even running for office, and they took that and ran with it. We're not even past the first sentence. I mean, my gosh. Shout out to the New York Times. I'm gonna try to get through this, but I want to break everything down for you because I want you to see how propaganda works. While a movement that claims to support the American descendants of slavery is being promoted by conservatives and attacked by the left. In Hollywood, and is being attacked by the left, by the way. In Hollywood, Harriet Tubman is played in a new movie by a black British woman, much to the annoyance of some black Americans. No, you just misrepresented our true history, number one, which is highly offensive. You couldn't go to any other country and do that. You couldn't go to India and misrepresent their history. I'm not an actor, but if I were an actor, I couldn't go misrepresent Asian history. In their films, they wouldn't allow it. So yeah, it's not an annoyance. That's bad practice. That's disrespectful. And then two, it was historically inaccurate in the sense that what they were trying to do with it is so obvious. They crowbarred a black man in there, it obviously fitted the feminist propaganda that they feed to black women. Look at this big horrible black men are just as misogynistic they're more misogynistic, hell, in this movie. And then you got the white savior shooting and killing and saving her from the black guy. It never showed the white supremacists being vicious in the movie. So yeah, we're up in arms about that. We're not tolerating that. It's more than just an annoyance. On the United States Census, an ultra-wealthy Nigerian immigrant and a struggling African-American woman from the South are expected to check the same box. When many American universities tout their diversity numbers, black students who were born in the Bronx and in the Bahamas are counted the same. Spirited debate is playing out in black communities across America over the degree to which identity ought to be defined by African heritage, or whether ancestral links to slavery are what should count most of all. Tensions between black Americans who descended from slavery and black immigrants from Africa and the Caribbean are not new, but a group of online agitators. See, you gotta put the negative connotation on it no matter what. Never mind it. We're the most desolated group in America. That's not being an agitator. That's not what's wrong with here. Not the fact that the majority of us are unemployed, living in poverty, impoverished. The majority of us are incarcerated, or at least a significant number of black men, more than any other demographic, are incarcerated. Never mind all that stuff. So us clarifying our lineage to get what we're owed because we are a broken and damaged people and are in need of restitution. Yeah, they're just some agitators. And sorry if I'm getting fired up, but we should be more fired up about this type of stuff. Yes, I'm talking with some bass in my voice because this is downright treason. And they took the time to put this piece out to not only confuse you, but to tell other white supremacists, okay, these are our targets. To tell these immigrant groups who come over here with this holier than thou, we're the true black Africans coming over here talking that. They say these are the targets you should go after. These people who just want their justice claim. Who are just fighting for their justice claim. These are the people you need to shout down and condemn. Not the white supremacists. For creating an environment like this in the first damn place. Tensions between black Americans who descended from slavery and black immigrants from Africa and the Caribbean are not new, but a group of online agitators is trying to turn those disagreements into a political movement. They want colleges, employers, and the federal government to prioritize black Americans whose ancestors toiled in bondage, and they argue that affirmative action policies originally designed to help the descendants of slavery in America have largely been used to benefit other groups, including immigrants from Africa and the Caribbean. Well, it's not just other black groups. It's anybody who's basically not a white man. I mean, that's pretty much what affirmative action boils down to. And they do this with everything that blacks just want for themselves, that ADOS people just want for themselves. Let me be more specific. That bloodline successors of American slavery just want for themselves. Anytime we get something, everyone else has to get it too. And that's why we're not really people like me who think along the same lines as me as far as political choices. We hear the double speak from the politicians, and we're not falling for it anymore. And so many people are like, well, you got to vote because you got to get Trump out of there. Well, the whole objective of voting is to get something out of it. If so, why are you voting? And we're pointing to the fact that the Democrats really haven't done anything for black people substantively, like, since I don't even know when, honestly. Everything that they gave to us pretty much was set up to fail from the jump. Or it had to be for everybody else, too. It couldn't just be for us. So even stuff like Black History Month, okay, everybody has a History Month now. Everybody has a History Month now. Nothing wrong. And I don't even have a problem with other groups recognizing their heritage and celebrating their heritage and knock yourself out. But the point is the reason that we had our own day is because this is the group that is totally and 100% completely ignored. But this is also the group that built the country. This is also the group that is hurting the most here in this country. So that day was supposed to be, or that month rather, was supposed to be something where we looked deeper into that as a collective. Not let's just talk about the same old people we always talk about. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Rosa Parks, the same people. And we sit and say what they did was so wonderful. Meanwhile, this system rages on. It's still affecting us in very detrimental ways, and we don't take a look into that. For Black History Month, in my opinion, it should be to look into the history of the different types of mistreatments and oppressions that the system of white supremacy has put on us. Let's dive into that. That way we can see what kind of long-term effects those have had. So that's why for black people, when everyone tells you, well, were you in slavery? Were you out in the cotton fields picking more? No, but that system that y'all implemented that affected my ancestors is still affecting me to this day. So I'm still a victim of it. That's why I need reparations. But they never let us have anything. That's just us. That's just for us. Everybody else has got to have it too, so that it dilutes any kind of potential progress it could have made for us. Okay, we're giving you guys affirmative action, but everybody else is going to get it too. Main beneficiaries of affirmative action have been white women. So, it's not just the Africans and the Caribbeans. The affirmative action is pretty much useless at this point when it comes to black people. Because everybody else gets it. It doesn't level the playing field. The very white women who potentially are part of wealthy families, because the wealth has been unequally distributed in their favor, they could benefit from affirmative action when the black person who had resources stripped of them systematically, generationally, I mean, they're not benefiting from it. They're still in the same social position. That was to give us an edge up. That was to give us an advantage. See, then you hear how silly that is. The American descendants of slavery, they say, should have their own racial category on the census. Again, it's a lineage. It's not a racial category. Race is a social construct. It's fake anyway. It shouldn't belong. The American descendants of slavery, they say, should have their own racial category on census forms and college applications and not be lumped in with others with similar skin color but vastly different lived experiences. The group which calls this, and it's not a group, by the way, it's not a group. It's not a group. It is not a group. Let me say that a couple of more times to get it. It's not a group. It is a lineage. It's an ideology. It's not no organization. No, it's a lineage. I'm just letting that sink. It's not an organization. Because organizations, as you've seen throughout history when it comes to black people, the Black Panthers, the example that comes to mind, organizations can be taken down. Organizations can be infiltrated. You can't infiltrate this. You can't send your COINTELPRO spies. You can't infiltrate. You can't break this up. So no, it's not a group. The group, which calls itself ADOS for American Descendants of Slaves, is small in number, with active supporters estimated to be in the thousands. Now, where the hell did they get this number from? You see, I'm getting fired up because this is how propaganda works. They didn't do a head count. They don't have any type of way to base how many people are classifying themselves as ADOS. If everybody did, that descended from slavery would be in the tens of millions. But they're trying to minimize, it's just a couple of thousand people. It's not no big number. It's not increasing by the day. It's not increasing daily. The gall to say something like that, estimated to be in the thousands. Please. But the discussion they're provoking is coursing their conversations far and wide. Those who embrace its philosophy point to disparities between black people who immigrated to the United States voluntarily and others who were ancestors who were brought in chains. Roughly 10% of the 40 million black people living in the United States were born abroad, according to the Pew Research Center. They linked that. They embedded a link to that, but they didn't embed the link to that. Estimated to be thousands of people. I don't know what you could make your estimates based off of, but okay. Up from 3% in 1980. African immigrants are more likely to have college degrees than blacks because it was set up that way by the system. They use other groups against us to take away all of our opportunities. We can't have just stuff for us. Matter of fact, we can't just even compete for the stuff that's there, but let alone the stuff that was supposed to be designated for us. Then blacks and whites who were born in the United States. In 2000, a 2007 study published in the American Journal of Education found that 41% of black freshmen at Ivy League colleges were immigrants or the children of immigrants, even though those groups represent 13% of the black population in the United States. In 2017, black students at Cornell University protested for the admission of more underrepresented black students who they define as black Americans with several generations in the United States. And this is a quote: "There is a lack of investments in black students whose families were affected directly by the African Holocaust in America," the students wrote to the president of the university. Now, that's a very accurate way to put it. I really wish it was referred to as that, because really that's what it was from the actual journey over here from West Africa. How many black bodies got dumped overboard or jumped overboard? They were like, I'd rather get eaten by the sharks than live in this hellhole. To the people that died from disease and starvation on the ship, that was the Holocaust. To the people who died from exhaustion during slavery, the people who were hung and lynched and whipped and beat to death and burned alive, that was a damn Holocaust that lasted hundreds of years. Yet you don't hear it referred to it as that. And I really think that that would inspire a little bit of more the same sympathy that the Jewish Holocaust invokes. Anytime we hear about that Holocaust, they see that was more recent, so they can show you the actual scenery that was there of the bodies piled up and the actual carnage. And America, quote unquote, fought to end it. They had their own regime. They had their own concentration camps over here. As far as the Deep South, which was one big concentration camp, you could be lynched and murdered at any point in time, and your government wasn't really doing anything about it for the longest time. But you can go look at that, and then that inspires more sympathy. But understand that went on for about 12 years. Nazi-occupied Germany, I know that they had basically what would be their version of Jim Crow over there during the 30s. And then the war and then it escalated to a full-scale war a little bit after that. But we're talking about centuries. As opposed to several years. And I'm not trying to downplay the Jewish Holocaust, but that just gives you an idea of why we deserve what we deserve. University administrators say that black students from other countries contribute to increased diversity, and I hate that word. I really hate that word. I've grown to truly despise diversity. You can have a bunch of people who look different in an environment, and the power dynamics can still be the same. It doesn't matter that you got more people in there. It doesn't matter. Even if their admittance does not mitigate the injustices of American slavery. Many black immigrant groups are also descended from slavery in other countries. And here goes Tariq Nasheed. They're about to get on him. The film producer Tariq Nasheed is among the outspoken defenders of the idea that the American descendants of slavery should have their own ethnic identity. Every other group, when they get out here, goes out of their way to say, I'm Jamaican, I'm Nigerian, I'm from Somalia, he said. But when you decide to say, okay, we're a distinct ethnic group, people look at that as a negative. Now, I did hear that they were trying to speak to him. He said that in one of his broadcasts. Yes, they reached out to him and answered some questions. But, I mean, from what he said, that the questioning was trying to be very deceptive, and they were trying to bait him into answering certain things. Like, for instance, they tried to get him to say that it was a group. They were trying to say who's the leader of the organization, and he said that rubbed him the wrong way. And that rubs me the wrong way, too. So, yeah, they spoke to him, but it's like, we're just going to put what we want them to know. We're not going to put what you really are telling us. This year, responding to requests for more detailed, disaggregated, I've never seen that word before, data for our diverse American experience, the Census Bureau announced that African Americans will be able to list their origins on the census forms for the first time instead of simply checking black. The goal of ADOS, now, that to me sounds kind of dark, what I just read, because they didn't say that the census was going to do that so that they could better represent our needs, specifically for what we need. They didn't say that. They said, we're going to start letting you pick what you want, and even I gotta see that first. But that sounds kind of dark to me, because it's like, okay, now we're going to know who to target. Now we have the data and we know how to make our targeting more efficient, because they've been keeping the census and they know who we are. They know we're a specific group. But this, to me, for people who think themselves as African, or I'm African American, but they still have allegiances to their countries and they're immigrants, they could say, well, okay, don't identify with these people because we need to know who you are, because we're going to keep using you against them the way we've been doing it. Because we don't want to give them anything. We don't want to help us further fine-tune the oppression here. That doesn't sound like they're trying to know who we are so they can get specific resources to us. the census, all that does, the census is just a method for which they can gather information about our racial makeup, which is, I mean, that whole system doesn't make sense to begin with, but they can just basically get information about everybody, specifically us, to make sure the system is working as efficiently as possible, to make sure the system is working how it was designed to, basically. So I don't get all giddy in the behind about that, because a lot of them don't want to identify as us anyway. I remember there was a coworker of mine, long time ago at one of my previous jobs, and we got to talking about, and she was Hispanic herself, and we were talking at lunch one day about some coworkers who were, I think they might have been from Nigeria, and we're just talking. I'm like, yeah, so and so is a stand-up guy, but he never talks to me, and she said, well, I was talking to him one day, and they told me that their parents tell them when they come over here to not talk to Black Americans. And that was years ago. But that always stuck with me, because in my mind at the time, I'm like, well, we're all Black, and there's this Pan-Africanism, and we're all have an identified struggle, and we're all in this together. And that kind of struck me as weird. That surprised me. That shocked me. She said, yeah, they tell them not to associate with y'all at all. And that really surprised me, that they were over here talking to the Latina chick, but didn't have anything to say to the person who actually looked like them. So they don't want to identify as us anyway. So if that option's on there, they're going to pick that option that they identify with. And that helps fine-tune the system. So I'm not jumping up and down about that, because we don't understand how sophisticated these people are. Embracing their role as insurgents, Mr. Moore and Ms. Carnell held their national conference in October and have made reparations for the brutal system of slavery upon which the United States was built a key tenet of their platform. Their movement has also become a lightning rod for criticism on the left. Its skepticism of immigration sometimes strikes a tone similar to that of President Trump. No, the hell they did not try to sit up here and align Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore with Trump. It's very difficult to put words to how just deceptive that is. They made them synonymous with Trump, who they repeatedly said, hell, I'll say this though, because Donald Trump has not said anything about providing corrective government action for the biggest crime in human history against Black people. He's not said anything about that. He's not said about providing anything substantive that's specifically for us. So no, Trump has nothing to do with it. Trump is a bigger of an enemy as the left is. Nobody's out here voting for Trump, who is a part of the ADOS ideology. No, we understand him for what he is. He's just honest with his white supremacy. That's the only thing about it. Nobody's out here caping for Trump. I'll say this, though. If Trump came out tomorrow and said, I'm going to be providing reparations specifically for Black people who descended from American slavery, I would vote for Trump in a heartbeat in 2020. If he has a plan, and he puts forth a plan, even if it's out of spite for the Democrats, yes, he would get my support. He would get my support, because voting is a business transaction. What am I going to get out of this deal? How is this deal going to benefit me? Not let me give you my vote and hope it works out. Especially when it comes to history, the Democratic Party has been more detrimental to the Black community than the Republicans have. shockingly enough to most of you. And the group has fiercely attacked the Democratic Party, yes, the hell we have, urging black voters to abstain from voting for the next Democratic presidential nominee unless he or she produces a specific economic plan for the nation's ADOS population. They didn't say reparations. They were not about to touch that. They couldn't bring themselves to say it. Such tactics have led some to accuse the group of sowing division among African Americans and engaging in a form of voter suppression not unlike the voter purges and gerrymandering efforts pushed by some Republicans. This is disgusting. First of all, Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell and people like me who keep spreading this truth and hitting people upside the head with it and who keep pushing this home that we're demanding something, we don't have the power to implement gerrymandering. We don't have the collective power to do that. We don't have the power to stop people from voting. We don't have the power to implement laws that keep white people from voting. We don't have laws to draw up districts to curry the vote in our favor amongst white people. So shut the hell up, New York Times. Trying to get through this garbage, but it's lie after lie after lie. It's not even they're telling a little bit of truth. It's lie after lie after lie. Not voting will result in another term of Donald Trump, said Brandon Gasaway, National Press Secretary of the Democratic National Committee. Now, I just made a meme. That's funny he should say that, whoever the hell this guy is. That's funny because I just made a meme with that white lady yelling at that white cat. And I pretty much put the same damn thing. And I put in the white lady's caption, I put the Democratic Party. You have to vote for us or else Trump will get reelected. And then the white cat's caption is, cut the check, heifer. With that smug look on his face. That's how I'm looking at that. That's how I'm looking at you, Brandon Gasaway. Who's full of gas, because that's full of crap. Excuse me. Shireen Mitchell, the founder of Stop Online Violence Against Women. Here come the feminists. They got to crowbar their way in, just like they crowbarred their way into Harriet Tubman. You got to crowbar their way in anything black sounding. Whenever they're talking about us, here come the feminists to play interference for the white supremacists. Has been embroiled in an online battle with ADOS activists for months. Excuse me. Ms. Mitchell contends that the group's leaders are using reparations as a weapon to make Trump more palatable to black voters. Oh, gosh. This wow. Never mind. There's plenty of videos and there's articles I've written going in on Trump. There's articles I've written going in and saying how he lied about the black unemployment rate. How he lied about that. I wrote the piece on how he was talking about the tax cuts were going to benefit the middle class and what they were going to do to black America. That gutted any type of, because he had to take those tax cuts from programs that were supposed to be for us. The money to cover that came from the programs that were supposed to benefit us. I talked about how this was the guy who was talking about people who had food stamps, about them getting boxes delivered to their door of food with canned food in it. And other ones have as well. And I know they're about to bring up Yvette Carnell wearing her Make America Great Again hat. It was, they love to, especially me and Talib Kweli was duking it out online. And I regret wasting time on this guy because he's clearly, the company he keeps is extremely questionable. One of the women who was supposed to be some community leader was a white female rapper parading herself around to be from the Middle East and some crap like that. So that's one of the people who's going back going back and forth on me on Twitter, and she ended up blocking me, by the way. But they like to bring that up. People who are diehard Democrats got to get in no matter what. We got to get Trump out of there. We got to get Trump out of there. Never mind what the Democrats did to black people. By the way, Talib Kweli is not a bloodline successor of slaves here. He's not. So it makes sense for him to be harping the way he does. But they like to get on Yvette Carnell about that Make America Great Again hat. I saw the video. They didn't actually watch the video and see what it is that she was talking about. Because in regards to what some of the rhetoric Trump says, some of it's actually truthful when it pertains to black people, rather. Because he was at a press conference, I forget where it was, but I was watching the interview, or not the interview, but the conference that he did, where the press was there. He said, "Did you know that black people built this country?" I don't know if you knew that. I forget the group he was speaking to, but he said, "Did you know that black people built this country? And nobody has put in the work that you guys have?" Yeah, he's an habitual liar. Yeah, he's a pervert. Yeah, he's a white supremacist, but he wasn't lying in that moment. He wasn't lying in that moment. And as far as immigration goes, he isn't wrong in that. He isn't wrong in the sense that if he's trying to close the borders and he's trying to clamp down on immigration, I mean, that actually benefits us, because immigration has hurt ADUS, or whatever you want to call it. It's basically all the same thing. That's actually hurt us. That's taken away a lot of opportunities from us. That's the reason that's the whole reason for it. And Trump is just saying, "I'm closing the door now. My constituents are tired of looking at y'all everywhere. They're tired of being around y'all. That's why they voted for me." As racist as that is, that historically immigration has hurt us. And present day, it's hurt our progress. Because it was designed to. It was designed by rich white corporations backing their politicians to let any and everybody in for cheaper labor, so that they wouldn't have to pay us, so that they wouldn't have to give jobs for us, so that we as black people who are coming with a standard, and no, we're not accepting this because it's minimum wage, and minimum wage says you at least have to pay us this. They say I can afford to hire Pedro and pay him this. I don't care if it's illegal or not. It benefits my business. It boosts my profits. So yeah, that didn't do us any good. It's not racist to say that. That's what happened. That's why they did it. That's why the powers that be allowed it. Trump is just saying, "Okay, enough of that. My constituents are tired of looking at y'all." If there's any group, and the majority of the left does not care about immigration. Let's just be completely honest. They don't care about the kids in the cages and all that. They just want everybody to vote Democrat so they can go back to the normal status quo that they're used to. If they really cared about immigrants, though, they would go against white supremacy as a system. They would start looking into how this system really works and who the team players are and the arenas that they play in. They would start looking into that and start asking questions about what the dynamics are here. White supremacy is responsible as a whole system, it's bigger than Donald Trump. It's bigger than Jeff Kavanaugh. It's bigger than Mitch McConnell. But the average white person, unfortunately, because they are comfortable with the status quo, they don't really look into it that deep. Get Donald Trump out is all that you pretty much hear from them, especially the ones on the left. Oh, okay, I thought they were about to bring Mitch McConnell's name up. I was going to be like the speak of the devil. Ms. Mitchell contends that the group's leaders are using reparations as a weapon to make Mr. Trump more, never mind that he's president, but Mr. Trump more palatable, to black voters. Others have pointed out that Ms. Carnell once appeared in her YouTube channel in a Make America Great Again hat. Please pardon me. My allergies are off the chain this season. I'm really just getting over a raging ear infection. So I got the post-nasal drip going down right now. So please forgive me for the sniffles. Over 1,000 people attended the group's first national conference hosted by Simmons College of Kentucky. Now, see, they saw that, and that bothered them. The propaganda arm, that bothered them. They're trying to get out in front of that. They're trying to get people from looking into that. They're trying to get people from looking into what we really are as a lineage. It's real tempting to say group, but we're not a group. I already went over that. They saw what that conference did. I wish I could have got the chance to go. Unfortunately, I did not have the means, to be completely and perfectly honest with you. But if the Foundational Black conference gets popping off, I'm going to go through hell and high water to get there. But that's just proof that the white media sees stuff like that, and they see that those types of things where we're congregating amongst ourselves and actually are serious about serious issues and coming up with agendas. They can't stand that. So that's essentially what this piece is. It's a hit piece. Guest speakers included Marianne Williamson, a wife self-help author who has made reparations a key plank of her platform. She has not made it a key plank. I'm glad that she went, but no, she is not. I'm glad she has went, but no, she is not. She has not championed reparations like she should. She has not made a case to the American public on why black people should get reparations, and she should be doing that. She came up with the figure that did not come from us. So yes, I am glad she attended, but do I see her as the politician who's gonna bring reparations to fruition? No, I do not. As well as Cornel West, a black Harvard professor who said ADOS is giving a voice to working class black people. Tyra Perry, not Tyler, Tyra Perry, a 35-year-old paralegal, was among the attendees. A former employee of the Los Angeles Black Workers Center, which used to count the number of black laborers as construction sites. Ms. Perry said she believed that the influx of Mexican immigrants had made it more difficult for black men to find construction jobs in the city. People call us divisive. We're not divisive, we're self-interested, said Ms. Perry, adding that she was prepared to see Mr. Trump reelected. Now, hold on. It didn't say that she was going to vote for Donald Trump. And shout out to whoever that sister was. It didn't say she was going to vote for him like this article has been trying to hit home. Oh, we're going to vote for Trump. They're supporting Trump. They're supporting Trump. No, she's basically saying, this will have a bigger impact by not voting, because then the Democratic Party is going to see, look, if you don't come with some tangibles, you're over. This movement's only going to get bigger from here. Not movement, but this concept is only going to spread farther and farther of what we are, what we really are, and who we really are, and what we really deserve. It only gets worse from here on out. You're just going to continue losing votes. If you're not coming with it, then you're over. You're over. So it's either going to be you're going to give us something, or we're just not going to participate. You'll be out of here. Then the Republicans will be next. We're coming after the Republicans next. For everybody who's sitting out there saying, oh, y'all just want Donald Trump to get in office. No, this is the first group we had to take down. I say we because my little platform, I have about 100 people, and that's it. And hey, that's what I'm rocking with. I'll work my way up to 1,000. I'll keep putting in work until I get to where I want to be or where I need to be. But I'll say we because I affiliate myself with people who think like I do. And though we have a little bit of influence, hell, we've been out here hitting people upside the head with this and hammering it home on our own little measly platforms with our own little measly resources. So the collective effort is what got the Democrats in the position that they're in right now. Continuing on here, and I see Talib Kweli's punk ass embedded in the article, so we're going to get to him. I just brought him up. Critics consider the movement a Trojan horse meant to infiltrate the black community. And one more thing, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, but one more thing. They didn't interview Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore. They did Tariq Nasheed on some nefarious questioning, but they left them out. The people who had the damn conference they're talking, they left them out of the interview. They did not interview them. Critics considered the movement a Trojan horse meant to infiltrate the black community with a right-wing agenda. A question why the group would target Democrats who have been far more open to discussions of reparations. Go to hell. I'm a follower of Christ, but I gotta say, I don't like to say that, but you know what? That's demonic behavior right there. That's devilish speech right there. That's what it is. They have been the most hostile when it comes to talking about reparations. Hell, we know where the Republicans are on that. They ain't trying to do nothing. But these supposedly, this party that's supposed to be the friend of black people, we said, okay, are you going to cut a check? Are you going to give us some tangibles? Are you going to give us some financial compensation for all that we've gone through and that this government has put us through? Is to cut a check for what? Let me do my Bernie Sanders. I think that there are more feasible ways to get things accomplished than just cutting black people a check. All of a sudden, they dismiss that. They can't bring themselves to even say that black people built the country. Donald Trump did that. You are willing to let, and I'm going to breeze through Talib Kweli because he makes me nauseous. And I'm going to tell you why, because I used to be a Talib Kweli fan. Even if he was still a dope rapper, I wouldn't be a fan anymore, but his music has gone all the way downhill over the years. Last hot record he made, I wrote about him in my second book as a reference, but the last hot record he made, 2012, 13 maybe? It was a song called Distractions, and I'm over there thinking the brother's actually about something. Distractions was my jam. And, you know, several years later, he's arguing with me on Twitter on whether black people here in America should get reparations. How things change. You're willing to let Donald Trump win, who clearly says he doesn't see reparations happening, asked Talib Kweli Green, a rapper and activist who has been become a vocal opponent of the group. Get out of here, and they have an exclamation point for what he said. Recently, Hollywood has become the source of much of the frustration, the dividing line between the United States-born African Americans and black immigrants. When the black British actress Cynthia Erivo was hired to play the abolitionist Harriet Tubman, the casting received immediate backlash. Similarly, the filmmaker Jordan Peele has been criticized for hiring Lupita, and I cannot read this is her last name, so forgive me, who is Kenyan, and Daniel Kaluuya, who is British, to play African-American characters in movies. Now, let me just say, the reason that we've been opposed to that is because there are plenty of black actresses, American black actresses here who have this, who not only can draw from the energy of the experience of living here, and they can draw from the energy of their DNA, all the experiences of their forefathers and foremothers. Not only can we put that into the role, which is something you can't learn in an acting school, we need the roles, period, because there are too many talented black actors and actresses here who are not getting these opportunities. Why are you having to go to overseas to find these people? Out of all the black American actors and actresses, why are you going overseas to get them? We're kind of looking at that like, okay, that's weird. There are plenty of them here, and they need the opportunities, and they need the representation. But Mr. Moore, 39, and Mrs. Carnell, 44, don't see the need to put their age, say they are not scapegoating black immigrants or trying to lead black voters astray. They say they are merely demanding something tangible from the Democrats in exchange for votes and trying to raise awareness around the economic struggles of many black Americans. Mrs. Carnell says she learned of the huge disparities in inherited wealth that left black Americans with a tiny share of the economic pie by reading reports, including an Institute for Polity Studies report that predicted that the median wealth of black families would drop to zero by 2053. You can actually look that article up. I've read it. Median wealth of black families would drop to zero by 2053. Very well written piece. And it shows the downward trend to wealth and why we're pretty much collectively as a group not going to have anything in the next couple of decades. And they'll get it. I think it's going to be sooner than that. I did read it. I did look at the research, but I see that happening much, much sooner. I'm seeing, and a lot of people aren't paying attention. I'm seeing here in Dallas, the gentrification that is occurring it's at a astronomical rate. I'm talking about neighborhoods. My cousin grew up in Oak Cliff, Texas, back when it was in the 90s. And I would go spend the night, and it was like a war zone over there. It was like a war zone over there. Now, all of a sudden, it's white mom and pop stores popping up all over there. I mean, come on. They are pushing this out at a rate like never seen before. It's become hyperactive. Their efforts have become hyperactive. Recently, Hollywood has become the source of much frustration around the dividing line between United States-born African Americans and black immigrants. When the black British actress Cynthia Erivo was hired to play the abolitionist Harriet Tubman, the casting received immediate backlash, as it should have. Similarly, the filmmaker Jordan Peele has been criticized for hiring Lupita, and I cannot read the sister's last name, forgive me, but who is Kenyan, and Daniel Kaluuya, who is British, to play African-American characters in his movies. And the reason that there was backlash is because many people, such as myself, were saying there's plenty of black actresses here in America. You don't need to go to foreign to get them. And why are you going and getting them from foreign places when there are plenty of black men and women who need acting opportunities here? The majority of the black actors and actresses we see are starting to become people who immigrated over here. Even though we built the country and fought diligently to be represented in Hollywood and had to overcome all types of obstacles and odds just to be in the American movies over here. We had to fight for that. But Mr. Moore, 39, and Mrs. Carnell, 44, said they are not scapegoating black immigrants or trying to lead black voters astray. They say they are merely demanding something tangible from Democrats in exchange for votes and trying to raise awareness around the economic struggles of many black Americans. Don't know why they had to put their ages in there. Ms. Carnell says she learned of the huge disparities in inherited wealth that left black Americans with a tiny share of the economic pie by reading reports including an Institute for Policy Studies report that predicted that the median wealth of black families would drop to zero by 2053. I do encourage all of you to go and check that article out. And the name of the article is "The Wealth of Black Families Will Drop to Zero by 2053. Now, did they link the article here? They might have just linked the report. No, they didn't link the article. They just linked the report. So go check the article out because it gives you it gives you better context if you check that out. Mr. Moore had been talking about some of the same studies on his own YouTube channel. The two joined forces in the 2016 election. I think that's what they were trying to put. The two joined forces in 2016 and coined the term ADOS, which spread as a hashtag on social media. What they have done is taken the racial wealth divide field out of the academia and packaged it under a populist hashtag, said Derek Asante Muhammad of the Institute for Policy Studies. Mr. Asante Muhammad lamented that the rhetoric of the movement comes off as anti-immigrant and said that Mr. Moore and Ms. Carnell are over-dramatized the impact of African immigrants on the wealth and opportunities available to Black Americans. And no, it doesn't. They have over-dramatized in quotation marks. No, it doesn't. There's very real evidence that shows that immigration has not been good for Black people. It is not. It's taken a lot of opportunities and a lot of avenues for economic competition away from us. It's taken that away from us. As a matter of fact, it was the reason immigration has gotten the way it is, and Neely Fuller talks about this. White supremacy plays both sides of the arguments. You have the left talking about, well, it needs to be open borders, and if you want to come here and contribute to the economy, we'll create an avenue for you to get in here. It doesn't matter if you came over here legally or not. Or we'll invite you guys over here, and then, meanwhile, they have to vet you first. They don't just let anybody over here. They don't just let anybody and everybody over here from African nations. They have to check you out first to make sure that you're not about to threaten this white power structure. In some cases, I heard they even want you to change your name to sound more American. Okay, if you're really American, you'll go by this name that we give you. So they're doing stuff like that at immigration. They're making sure you're not threatening the status quo. They started really doing that back after Marcus Garvey. They started really kind of vetting people after him. But yeah, the reason immigration has gotten the way it is because white corporations many of them who got their starts in slavery, never mind that, wouldn't be corporations without us. They brought them over here to not have to pay people minimum wage. See, the economy such as it is primarily benefits white people, not all. So all the trailer park racists who are listening to my show right now, don't be hitting up in the comments. I have not gotten anything from white privilege. I already know what y'all are gonna say. Save the comment. But for the most part, wealth is in their hands. They understood we don't want to have to pay these Black people even minimum wage. Black people are coming with some demands. No, I'm a citizen and I need at least minimum wage. Corporations figured out, okay, we can just go get somebody illegal, or we can export the jobs and not have to pay you Negroes anything. We can just replace you. Because we don't need you no more. That's how white supremacy works. William Darity Jr., a professor at Duke University, has written a series of reports about wealth inequality cited by Mr. Moore and Ms. Carnell. In one report, Dr. Darity found that the median net worth of white households in Los Angeles, now get this, in Los Angeles was $355,000 compared with $4,000 for Black Americans. Now, if that's not evidence of a systematic failure, I don't know what the hell is. I've looked it up for Dallas. I can't find it because that's my home turf. Fort Worth Star-Telegram did an article about it. Fort Worth is getting more white and more expensive. So check that out if you want to go check that out. I say Dallas, but I'm in Haltom City right now, which is a suburb of, I don't know. Fort Worth is different. I guess it's a suburb of Fort Worth. Dallas is a county and it's a city, so it's a little bit different. African immigrants in the city had a median net worth of $72,000. Now, they've been here shorter than us have a medium net worth, rather, more than us. Think about that for a second. Think about what I just said. Dr. Darity's research also shows that not all immigrant groups are wealthy. Dr. Darity did not attend the recent conference in Kentucky, but he said he saw AGDOS as a social justice movement on behalf of a segment of the population that is being left behind. Now, first of all, he didn't say social justice. See, This is excuse me. This is your liberal, independent news media outlet trying to use their terms to and trying to identify one of the people who's actually trying to make some progress with their terms, with one of their narratives. He's a social justice warrior. No, he's not. He didn't even say that. They didn't even quote him on that. He didn't say that. So now they're just making stuff up at this point. They embedded a link, but the link only goes to him wearing a t-shirt that says ADOS on it. So now they're just making up stuff. This is a hit piece, obviously. But not everyone agrees with Dr. Darity's view that empowering disadvantaged African Americans is the extent of the group's message. Some who have used the hashtag have used racist, violent language when going after their detractors. They didn't, but okay. Miss Cornell once defended the term blood and soil, a Nazi slogan, on Twitter. Now, first and foremost, a lot of black people who have spoke up for racial justice for black people have used terms that involve blood, our blood in the soil. Hell, lots of people have used that. Lots of people have used that. It's nothing new. Now you got books talking about the blood in the soil. You have poems talking about the blood in the soil. You had slaves who were talking about that. The blood is warm. And who was that? I'm trying to think of his name. Sorry, I'm spacing out. It's late. But no, I'm tripping. Frederick Douglass said that. Frederick Douglass said the blood of the slaves is still warm in the American soil. Signifying that we built America. We built the economy. That's how we were able to supersede Britain. So you're gonna compare Frederick Douglass to the Nazis now? Are you serious? Miss Mitchell, the founder of Stop Online Violence Against Women, said she was harassed online by the group supporters. No, they weren't. She was not. No, she wasn't. She wasn't harassed. They were just saying this is complete BS and you know it, and we're not about to sit here and tolerate it. That's not the same as harassed. We're just calling you out on your nonsense. And the New York Times is saying she felt she was harassed. She didn't quote that, but okay. Mentioned group supporters after she mentioned ADOS on Joy Reid's MSNBC show in a segment about Russian disinformation campaigns. That's because they said we looked like we were Russian bots, and you could have reached out to any one of us. They could have reached out to Yvette Carnell. They could have reached out to Tariq Nasheed. They could have reached out to anybody, and they could have gotten our take on it. They just said, oh, it looks like Russian bots. Okay, you could have called one of us, or better yet, you could have invited one of them instead of Miss Mitchell on. For clarification, if we're talking about, responsible journalism here, I'm just saying. During the segment, Miss Mitchell implied that ADOS was made up of Russian bots impersonating real black people online. After the segment aired, the group's supporters harassed. Now, see, again, that's her. That's them saying that, not her. Not her. They harassed her. Miss Mitchell, as well as Miss Reid, who they noted was born to immigrants. If you do not agree with them or acknowledge their existence, they go after you, Miss Mitchell said. Basically, what she's saying is they don't let you lie with impunity and not say, hey, here's some consequences for lying. You're not going to lie about our people's needs and get away with it. We're not putting up with it. Yeah, they went after her. As any other group would. If I said something about the Latinos that was out of pocket, they all would come storming from me. As they should. Miss Carnell has also been criticized for her past service on the board of Progressives for Immigration Reform, an anti-immigration group that has received funding from a foundation linked to John Tanton, who was referred to as the puppeteer of the nation's nativist movement by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Now, this is what I was kind of alluding to earlier as far as me voting for, if I would vote for Trump if he was about reparations. Understand something. It's about, under the system of white supremacy, which has us at a disadvantage in every arena of the society, you use anything that is advantageous to you to better either to better the group or to better your own situation so that you can be in a position to better the group. So even if it's a white supremacist, yes, Trump is a racist. Yes, he's a sexist. Yes, he's a pervert. Yes, he's this, that, and the third. Yeah, he don't like Mexicans. But if he produced something that would help black people, if he came out and said, I will make reparations for black people the way the Democrats aren't willing to do, and it's only going to be for you guys who came out of slavery, because he's already went on record saying that, y'all, did you know your guys built the country? He's already said that. If he came out with that tomorrow, yes, I would vote for him the next election. Yes, he would get in office. I'd vote for him. That's some tangibles. Under this system, you have no permanent friends. You have no permanent enemies. You have no permanent enemies. You have family, and that's a whole nother broadcast for a whole nother time. I'll get into that on a whole. I need to do a show about that. Friends, enemies, and family. What really are they? Note to self. Just kidding. Anyways, so yeah, she's a part of this organization that's tied to basically a conservative who's basically preaching white nationalism, but she saw it as a way to help her people come up. Okay, immigration hurt us. We understand that. At least open borders hurt us. I'll put it that way. Let me stop by saying that. And not all immigrants are bad. Let me go ahead and say that. Not all immigrants are not trying to align themselves with the dominant society. They're not trying to get in favor with white folks. They're not trying to jump in line to come and be a part of our oppression. Not all of them are, but too many of them are. And open borders only leads to the further oppression or the further mistreatment and disenfranchisement we're already receiving now under these circumstances. So she got on that panel to be like, look, this is what my people need. Our views align in this area. Am I going to be at the Trump rally talking about vote for Donald Trump? No. I'm not voting for Donald Trump personally, me, myself. I'm not. But I will vote for anybody. I don't care if it's a Republican. I don't care if it's a Democrat. I don't care if it's a Martian. If they're talking about tangibles for our group, then yes, I will vote for them. It's a business transaction. We're not talking about who I like. I don't have to like anybody. They don't have to like me. You coming to the table with some tangibles, yeah, you got my vote. If it's going to put me in a position to help my people, or it's going to put my people in a position to help themselves, yes. And the Democrats are not trying to bend on that at all. Excuse me. A September newsletter from Progressives for Immigration Reform touted that the growing political clout of ADOS and praised it as a movement that understands the impact of unbridled immigration has had on our country's most vulnerable workers. This summer, ADOS ignited a flurry of criticism after Ms. Carnell complained that Senator Kamala Harris, Democrat of California, was running for president as an African-American candidate but failed to put forth an agenda for black people. She noted that Miss Harris is the daughter of an Indian mother and a Jamaican father. Critics quickly accused Miss Cornell of birthism and xenophobia. Now, this is complete garbage right here. This is how disgusting the New York Times is. This is proof of it right here. How in the heck can someone accuse someone of being xenophobic when Kamala Harris herself has never ever claimed being Muslim? She's never subscribed to the Islamic faith. Anybody in the comments section, point that out to me. When has she ever identified as Muslim? See, the New York Times is just making stuff up at this point. They could have put some examples in there. They could have embedded the links, and they didn't. This is a pure propaganda hit piece. That's what it is. And that's how these things work. No one was condemning her for being xenophobic. I did see some, she is black. And then it was clarified, okay, she's black, but she's not of our lineage. Excuse me. And although Ms. Cornell and Mr. Moore say ADOS is a nonpartisan movement, the hashtag has been used by conservatives who support Trump. I like ADOS and Coulter, a white conservative commentator, wrote on Twitter, but I think it should be DOAS, descendants of American slaves, not Haitian slaves, not Moroccan slaves. Now, in this particular instance, I agree with Ann Coulter. She's a conservative, which is code word for white supremacist, but she's not lying in this instance. She's not right here in this tweet. No. The truth is the truth, regardless of who we like. At a conference in Kentucky, supporters pushed back against the idea that they were anti-immigrant or surrogates of the president's agenda. We're not xenophobes, said Mark Stevenson, a director of talent acquisition in the Navy, who said he founded an ADOS chapter in Columbus, Ohio this summer. If you ask somebody who is Latino what their heritage is, they'll tell you they are Puerto Rican or Dominican or Cuban. This is our heritage, he added. I don't see the issue. Now, that pretty much sums it up. And there you go, people. This right here is what a propaganda hit piece looks like. See, you probably would read something like this and think nothing of it. But tonight you got the breakdown. Well, it's tonight on my side, whatever type of day it is, time of day it is on your side. That's different. But you would have read this and took it at face value. And that's how propaganda works. They weren't outright saying black people in America who descend from slavery do not deserve reparations and they should not get reparations. They weren't outright saying it. They used all types of code speak, though. And what pieces like this do is they give white people and the black people tell this to them. Black people internalize all this. This is meant for white people, though, but black people do internalize it. The average white person can read something like this and say, well, you know, there's some black people who are saying that reparations, there are other black people who are saying that black people who descend from slavery shouldn't get reparations too. There's both sides to the argument. People who classify themselves as the bloodline successors of African American slaves, there is no debate. There is no both sides. There is no discussion. It's just a justice claim. You're either going to give us what's ours, what we rightfully deserve. We built the wealth of this nation. We made it possible for others to achieve wealth in this nation. We've been specifically and systematically targeted by the government and by the citizens of this nation. We deserve financial compensation for that, for generations of that. what happened to my granddad affects me. My granddad is a veteran. For all you veterans out there, I support the veterans. Okay, well, my granddad couldn't come. My granddad came home. He couldn't find work, even though he was skilled in machinery. All those jobs were meant for other white people who served in the military, for normal white citizens. He had to go get a job at the damn loading dock to support his family. Even though he had the skill set. Imagine the opportunities for my aunts and uncles and my mom he could have provided. That could have set her up to put me in a better position. I don't have a lot of resources. I'm over here recording this over my computer. But hey, it is what it is. I'll start off with the computer and work my way up. I don't care. But the point is, black people don't have as much outreach as the white media because these are normally the positions that we're in. It's propaganda pieces like this that ease the conscience of the general white population. It's propaganda pieces like this that make black people think that we deserve this kind of treatment and that we don't have a right to make any justice claim for anything. That we don't deserve anything that's just ours. That we have to include everybody else. No, we've been specifically harmed and mistreated, and therefore we deserve to be specifically rectified. We need to be specifically remediated. And most of you, this is the first time you've heard this broken down like this. I read this crap every day, and most of you see it every day. You just don't read the New York Times article because most people don't really like to read, if we're being honest here, which is part of the problem. But you see this on your nightly news. You see this every morning you wake up and you turn the television on. You see it in your movies. You see it in your Game of Thrones. You see it in your Walking Deads. You see it in your Avengers movies. You just don't realize it. You're just going for entertainment, but this is what you're being subconsciously subjected to. It's demonic. It's disgusting. It's vile. And yes, I'm a follower of Christ. And I will say, yes, this is the work of Satan. This is satanic. You're constantly trying to hypnotize millions and millions of people to go along with a very repressive and oppressive system. And you're giving them excuses to accept that that's very evil and wicked and disgusting. But until you hear somebody break it down like this, it's just news. The news on the local level, the national level, it's not presented to you to inform you as a citizen. It's presented to you to program you. While the New York Times does allow some writers on there to tell the truth every now and then, they're willing to allow a little bit of truth. But then they turn around and tell, these are called half-truths. It's meant to confuse you. They can turn around and say, see, we're not racist. We're not propaganda. We had a black person on here talking about black people and how racist the media is. Then they'll turn around and be the same racist media. That's how it works, folks. As Neely Fuller said, white supremacy plays both sides in an argument. You see, we have both sides presenting. It's both sides. It's equal. That's how it works. That way, someone who is talking like I'm talking tries to challenge you on it. You say, well, that New York Times piece said that, ADOS is, a lot of them are Trump supporters, and I don't want to be I don't want to pay attention to a group who supports Trump. Okay, I understand black people have been disparaged, but to align yourselves with Trump, come on. That's the environment they're trying to create. That's why this piece was written. Nothing more, nothing less. And I just wrote that down for you. Lie after lie. I've seen pieces do this. I've not seen one in a while lying as hard as this one. Normally, because when I see certain terminology, I just click off. This ain't even a half truth. This lied the entire way through. This was just a hit piece. This was a diss track to bloodline successors of American African slaves. And I just broke that down for you. Something to ponder. Next time you're reading a piece, especially if it pertains to black people, look at the word. Look at the code speak. If you're new to my channel, and I meant to say this in the beginning, but I wanted to dive in so feverishly. Forgive me for that. If you're new to the channel, please consider if you want to hear more content like this, because it will be coming, especially after I get this book done. Then I'm about to rocket fuel this damn podcast channel. But if you'd like to hear more material like this while I'm writing my book, please hit the subscribe button. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It takes a minimal amount of effort. And please take the time to hit that notification bell, and please hit the like button. That helps me show up on other people's recommended for you sections on YouTube. I appreciate you tuning in to this broadcast. Thank you, Lisa Roberts. That's the music background, by the way. I'm not going to give too many shout outs, but thank you for joining us. I hope you do again in the future. If you scroll down into my description section, there is a contribution link. Please consider making a small contribution or a large one. Hey, I'm not going to try to stop you. You can make any amount to my PayPal account. I would appreciate it if you want to give $25 or 25 cents. Knock yourself out. I appreciate any contribution. That helps me increase this platform. If you want other people to get this information that you've heard tonight, please give me the resources to do so. Because that's what I want it for. I'm not trying to hustle the people out of any money whatsoever. I'm trying to spread this message far and wide. And I appreciate any amount that you're willing to give. And this concludes this program of Poethnic Justice. I look forward again. It has been an honor. It's been a privilege to speak this truth to my people. I will continue to do so tirelessly until I'm an old man. Hope you will tune in again. Hope you'll tune in again with us on the next time. And until then, as always, one love and one justice. Peace.